So I'm married to the most wonderful woman in the world, and I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. The girls are married. My oldest daughter has an 18-month-old son, and they live in Jakarta, which is really hard. And then my middle daughter she's got twins. They live in Huntington Beach. We're trying to woo them to Oregon. And then my son is in a grad school program at OSU in water resource engineering. They're rock stars. I mean, they're really cool kids. So, but I grew up in Vancouver, Washington. Went to high school in Portland, and then did 5 colleges in 6 years before I finally graduated from Portland State in accounting. And then I went to law school at Lewis and Clark, and then I went to tax school at New York University. And then I practiced law for 4 years. And then I went in-house with Pacific Corp as sort of their in-house tax counsel, and got involved in tax advantage transactions. And that led me into the low-income housing tax credit. So we were basically, I started a business for Pacific Corp that ended up being 5,500 units of multifamily apartments in 18 states. And then I was a co-founder of Kemper Bard Companies, a real estate investment banking firm based in Portland. And then I formed my own company in 2000 to do real estate development. What brought me to Housing Works, I'd been doing business with Housing Works since 1993. So I was doing a lot of business. We did a number of developments. I was a joint venture development partner with them in various roles at Pacific Corp, and then as Kemper Co. Cindy Cook's CFO gave notice in the summer of 2010, and things were looking dire, and we were in the middle of a workout on Putnam Point in downtown Bend. And so I just said, well, why don't you just hire me on a month-to-month basis as an interim CFO? And because obviously, because she was nervous about everything that was going on. And so I did that. I basically was here 4 days a week. For 6 months, we hired our new CFO, who's a rock star, and they kept me around. I was under contract, and I'd spend 2 to 4 days a week here, doing acquisitions, refinancing, partner buyouts. We started a management company, and helping her run the organization. And then she had to leave on a medical leave in 2012, and she asked me if I'd become interim, ED while she was gone. And my question was, how long are you going to be gone? So she was gone a couple months, and then she came back, and she decided that she was going to retire. And so I had been working with the organization for like 2.5, 3 years, and it was sort of like, there's a wonderful group of people here. The essence of Housing Works is to foster dignity through housing. That's what we're about. There's 4 segments to Housing Works. The biggest part of our business, or our organization, I guess, better put, is we have a contract with the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, the federal government, and where we provide rental subsidy for low-income households, like 1,200 households in Central Oregon. And then we have a portfolio of multifamily housing. We have about 800 units. And then we have a development operation that develops affordable housing, both single family and multifamily, predominantly multifamily. And then we have a resident service program, both through our family self-sufficiency program under our HUD contract, and then we have an affiliate nonprofit called Families Forward that the purpose of that organization is to provide high quality resident services for residents at our properties. So common misconceptions of housing works. Probably the biggest misconception is that we're HUD. The reality is we manage a contract that we have with HUD where we provide like $7.5 million of rental subsidy to 1,200 families in Central Oregon. Another one is that the people we serve are on welfare and they're deadbeats. And the reality is that I think 62% of our clients are elderly, disabled, on fixed incomes, with limited ability to kind of create economic stability in their own lives. They're on fixed incomes. So people ask me, how bad is it? How bad is the housing situation in Central Oregon? The reality is that Central Oregon is in a serious housing crisis. Vacancy is less than 1%. We've had the normal hit rate for a voucher holder to find housing when we give someone a voucher is between historically about 60 to 70%. Because the housing market has gotten so tight, the actual once we give somebody a voucher, our experience now is we're lucky if 25% of the people can actually find a place to live, and of those 25, we're afraid that in fact they already are living in a place and they're just getting rental subsidy. So I mean, picture this. I mean, rents are going crazy because there's such a scarcity. I mean, demand way exceeds supply. Vacancies under 1%, and so landlords are pushing rents. I mean, think about it. I mean, they held the line and went through the downturn when they probably had to carry properties, and now they have this opportunity to raise rents, and so that's happening. And rents have gone up probably more than 50% over the last 4 years, and so it's just it's people. I think more than half the renters in Central Oregon are paying more than 30% of their incomes for housing, and 30% is sort of what is supposed to be affordable. So, and that's at all levels. I think somebody making $50,000 is having a hard time finding a place to live at a reasonable rent. And so it's a serious problem, and it's demand exceeding supply. There's an influx of people coming in, and we haven't kept up with the housing supply. There's, I think, 1,500 units in process in Bend right now, and that'll certainly help. But I mean, most of those are probably a year out before they get delivered. So I mean, we're living with this housing crisis for sure, and it's the same things happening in Redmond and Madras and Prineville, Sisters, all the communities in Central Oregon. Well, I think the first thing I would do is remember it costs just as much to build affordable housing as it does market housing. So if you have lower rents, you have the inability to carry debt as a market deal would. So I mean, you've got this gap that it takes to get affordable housing. So additional gap funding, I think if I was king, that's what I would want, is more money, that gap funding to get units built. Because it's just, you can only build what you can finance, and so you've got to have the money to build these deals to get to deliver units. So that's probably number one. Number two, I'd give code leniency for affordable housing. Density bonuses, lower SDCs. In fact, if I had one dream in Bend, would be that the Parks District would give us an SDC waiver on units in Bend. But I mean, and lower costs, I mean, obviously is important. I mean, lower hard costs, lower construction costs, and that's really a wish because they're going up because of the way the economy is going. Oh, that's really hard. Understand that 5 years ago we were in a depression, and that vacancy was a lot higher. We didn't have an affordable housing problem 5 years ago. So I mean, I don't. It's hard to extrapolate 10 years. I mean, we're in the middle of this crazy housing crisis right now. I mean, it affects all the communities, and so I would expect that there would be, that it's probably one of the top issues in Central Oregon, and it will continue to be that way for several years. Now, in the next dip, it'll relax because people will move away, but it'll come back. The issue will come back. So I mean, our view is that we need to be pretty conservative, make sure that we underwrite our deals, effectively for the long term, and then create units. I mean, what we're focused on right now is predominantly building new units in all of the communities that we serve in Central Oregon, because in the long run, they're going to be needed. I mean, the population projections are pretty seriously showing pretty significant growth, and we've got to get units built.